User experience design at Red Hat. I have the privilege of speaking to you all today about this important and really cool topic. So, hi everyone, my name is Andy Braren. I'm a product designer at Red Hat for the past 5 years or so, and I've worked on a variety of OpenShift related things, from the web console to OpenShift virtualization, to improving your experience of OpenShift on bare metal, to the OpenShift Assist installer, also known as the agent-based installer. And just out of curiosity, how many of you have tried out the OpenShift Assist installer or agent-based installer yet? Awesome, lots of hands. It's pretty cool, right? I think it's pretty cool. One of the coolest projects we worked on. Also, OpenShift Cluster Manager, Advanced Cluster Manager for Kubernetes, and just OpenShift odds and ends in general. Really cool product, it's supported for a while, and most importantly, I'm a member of the user experience design team here at Red Hat, where experience matters is sort of our slogan. This is a super cool and possibly like intercollaborative, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary group of content designers, UI engineers, interaction designers, research folks, analytics folks, and Patternfly developers as well. Patternfly is our product design sort of system, which we'll get into a little bit as well. And together we support a wide range of Red Hat products, from OpenShift to RHEL to Ansible and all the various products in between. We're definitely a cross-product group as well, supporting all the various things we work on. So today we'll be talking a little bit about what is user experience design in general. And it's pretty darn simple. It's 3 sort of main letters here, so I think we can sort of break it down letter by letter and kind of walk through it together. So first and foremost, shift to the right, it starts with you. First and foremost. So our job is about understanding and talking to you about what you're doing, what you're struggling with, what you need, how it can make your life easier in your environments, your customers, in your companies to support your business success. We're not X designers, we're UX designers. Without that you, we're just basically making whatever the heck we feel like, right? And that's what we're in the business of doing. We're here to serve your needs, and that's why that you is so critically important to what we do. Making sure we're actually building things that you need, basically. So that's quite key. So bring it to our process in many different ways. This is sort of all within the company, so bring your voice and your perspectives and your thoughts and ideas into things that we build. And we have a few different ways of doing this, from user research to empathy workshops and in-product feedback as well, which we'll sort of touch on now. So user research is the first one. Trying to identify what's actually most important to all of you and what you're unsatisfied with today. So this particular chart comes from a recent survey we did, quantitative survey with a bunch of platform engineers actually. I know it's a big sort of buzzword in the industry nowadays, but we want to examine and look at, from a platform engineering perspective, what are the needs and capabilities that you all have, and which sort of buckets and categories do they fall inside of? Are these features and things sort of things that are overserved in the market today, and things you're already satisfied with, things that you're generally appropriately served and generally satisfied with as well, or things that you're underserved, sort of like things that are potential opportunities for us to provide new value to you all in the solutions and things we sort of build and provide. Or heck, even things that are sort of table stakes features and capabilities, things that you're so important and you're already currently so satisfied with that they're sort of table stakes to consider in our platforms as well. By building out these kind of surveys and this kind of quantitative analysis, we could also help inform the design of our products and working with the product management team to make sure that we're on the right kind of track to build things that you all actually need as well. So that's one major aspect. Another kind of key component of this is major quantitative studies. So we have a extremely experienced user research team, which is honestly just boggles my mind. I'm not a super mathematical person, but we have like data scientists and folks who are deep into product analytics looking at the products that we have, and they're super duper impressive. So I think we actually talked to 300 of you all, OpenShift administrators, a couple years back to basically look at like what are the top things you're doing inside of OpenShift today, both in the command line interface and the graphical user interface and the web console. What are those kind of top tasks to make sure that we're optimizing and focusing on the key parts of the experience that you use every day? So through that survey, we identified like what are the key sort of top tasks and your general user journey across our products and things as well. And that was quite cool. We even do things at the lower levels too. So this is kind of an interesting study. It's a very cool visualization there on the right-hand side, but we basically measured and looked at various alerts that are in OpenShift today. Sort of like a machine with no running phase or queue pod not ready. And we basically asked you, like, if this were to pop up on your screen or to pop up in Slack or pop up on your phone through PagerDuty or something, how confident would you be in your ability to actually address that issue and find the root cause of that issue and solve it as well? It's kind of neat seeing that when it comes to cluster operators being degraded, a lot of you got kind of scared as well. But if it's something that's queue pod not ready, you've seen that a lot of times. You sort of know how to troubleshoot that and go about doing it. So in doing that sort of survey and that sort of analysis, we even look at, in the OpenShift Web Console today, based on your experience levels, where do you actually click on things to actually debug and start digging into those particular alerts? So we measure and look at a lot of these different aspects and things to really understand how you're using our products today, your various user needs, and how we can actually improve them as well. Another major, and I think one of the most important tools in our tool belts is interviews, observations, and usability tests with all of you. So this is pretty casual. It's just sort of discussions. Tell us about your day-to-day life. Focus on your role. Tell us about the last time that you had a particular issue, or ran into some particular problem, how you felt in that moment emotionally, and importantly, how did you actually address that problem? What solutions did you use, and what were sort of the friction points along that journey to the resolution that we could help sort of smooth out in the future as well? So we do quite a few user interviews and look across all of them as well for sort of themes as well. And that's another key tool in our tool belt too. And it's really sort of, I don't know, humanizing, just listening to you all and your stories, listening to you having a job or something with overnight responsibilities and constantly waking up to false alarms in OpenShift, which is something that really sort of bugs us and we're all also trying to still improve. It really sort of helps humanize the things you're all sort of working on. Or somebody gets in big trouble because of an alert that didn't give them a clear understanding of what the actual problem sort of was. Or somebody mentioned that running out of resources in their cluster and running into resource constraints is sort of a cancer to the soul of a development team, and it being a lose-lose situation for everybody. We just love to bring these kinds of stories and the actual voices of the users and the customers that we all have into our product design and product development process as much as we possibly can. And this is a major tool that helps us do that. Another really key and important tool, and as I speak actually, I think behind that wall over in room E, there's a customer empathy workshop happening with a bunch of folks around the secure software supply chain or software supply chain security. And at 2 p.m. we have another session around platform engineering in general that you're all welcome to join, by the way. But those kinds of empathy workshops give us some face-to-face time. We haven't actually had that since I think 2019 or so was the last one in person. We've been doing them virtually since then. And these are really awesome. It's an opportunity, a way to sort of bring you into our design thinking process and a product development process, just brainstorming potential problems and blockers and anchors that you have to achieve the things you're trying to do, and also brainstorming some solution ideas and doing dot voting and sticky notes for flying. And it's a really fun activity, but basically trying to figure out what are possible ways that we can actually solve your problems today. And that can actually very much influence our future roadmaps, which we'll touch on a little bit too. Another really cool mechanism that's sort of newish, but we're really excited about is in-product feedback as well. So I don't know if folks have seen this particular modal, but if you go to console.redhat.com, in the top right corner, there's a little question mark icon, and you can provide feedback about anything with an OpenShift cluster manager or anything else directly inside the product itself. Either that's feedback or ideas or reporting bugs, accessing our customer support portal and things like that. We definitely read those responses and care about them deeply. And this mechanism, by the way, coming soon, probably be inside the OpenShift web console as well as probably ACS and ACM too, for folks who use those products too. And this is something that I think this came up like just a few weeks ago too, and I'm really psyched about. Brad Bazemore, the product manager for OpenShift Sandbox, and just out of curiosity, how many of you have tried an OpenShift Sandbox before at developers.redhat.com? Free trials there. It's really awesome, right? This is super cool. So he actually figured out a way to, in OpenShift Sandbox itself, add a little moto there so you can schedule time with him on his calendar and sort of see his availability and actually speak to him about your user needs, the things you'd like to see improved in Sandbox and things like that as well. So that's really quite cool. So that's yet another mechanism that we work with product management and UX designers as well to make sure we're getting the voice of you all into our products and improving our products in that way. So I know there's a ton of examples and a lot of different sort of case studies there, but hopefully it's starting to resonate and sort of sink in. It all starts with you, from user workshops, empathy workshops, or in product feedback. I almost feel like, I don't know, I'm not like Steve Ballmer or anything, obviously. I'm not really sweating enough for that, but I really feel like emphasizing, like users is the most important thing for our design process, is speaking to and talking to and understanding all of you. So can't emphasize it enough. And that's just the first letter. That brings us to the next letter here, experience. This is a more nebulous word, but I think obviously the most cool looking, so we jazzed it up a little bit. Folks know me, I like my dumb analogies and my emojis, so I'll just sort of do something here. When humans and computers intersect, basically, and they sort of touch and meet, that's X marks the spot. That's sort of where UX designers like I and others sort of live and breathe and focus on. And sometimes the direction is through a graphical user interface. I think when folks think of design, they have to think, oh yeah, that's the GUI, that's the web console. But there are other interfaces as well, including command line-based interfaces that I'm sure you all use plenty often too. And we have sort of a slogan within UXC that experience matters, and when we say that, we mean this. If the interface that you're using is so inscrutable, so unusable, not really understandable to the point where you can actually use it effectively, in some cases, it doesn't really matter how powerful the technology is that you're building or what features and capabilities you have. If folks can't use it, sort of does it actually matter? Is it actually impacting lives and actually improving our user experience? Not really. And in some cases, you can sort of paper over that by adding different interfaces or adding, attempting to be contextual and helpful help, but that doesn't always work either. I think we can see a recent example of this in the rise of AI-based kind of tools as well, and our different interfaces and the way that we interact with these kind of chatbot-based interfaces that are really sort of blowing our minds too, right? And I think this is sort of like a sea change in our interaction model where I can easily imagine that a year from now or something, The way we interact with our computers, the way we get information from the internet and things could be fundamentally changed, and interaction with them could be quite different than what it is today or what it has been. So when we say experience matters, that's sort of our tagline, that's sort of what we mean. It's this intersection of psychology and technology, of visual design, interaction design to surface and bring forth the capabilities in our platforms and technology, things that you're all building as well, to make sure that things are actually usable, so that folks can actually leverage the performance and the improving capabilities that our platforms are providing and actually making that stuff, improving our lives as well. So that's kind of what we mean when we say experience matters, that interface, that intersection between the nervous cells and however the heck our brains work to however computers work, which are also magic in their own way, making rocks think, kind of incredible. That intersection is really quite key and important, and that's sort of what we're focused on. Because after all, we're only human, and as I'm sure you've noticed, this stuff is complicated. My goodness. Even the stuff we're about to see today and learn today, there's a lot of stuff going on. Constantly new features being released, constantly new things like WASM, super awesome technology. I have a lot to learn in that space, and we all don't have a lot of time, right? Learning this stuff is quite complicated, quite difficult to do, and we know from a lot of you all that you're struggling with this. Actually figuring out how to piece these things together and actually make them work together as well is something you're all sort of looking for, to Red Hat for, to actually help you out in this regard. So when we say we design experiences, that's sort of letter X, what we really mean is we're designing your journey, your emotional roller coaster of ups and downs and nervous points and successful points across these different phases, from learning about things or discovering things to trying things out and actually using them too. So we're constantly thinking about pretty much every single day, will the user actually be able to find this thing? Can we make this thing easier to understand? How might we lower the barrier to entry so they can actually try this thing? Or how might we, in some cases, simplify or ideally completely automate what we need for you all to think about these particular things and actually focus on them? And we're constantly applying the things that we learned from you through those various research methods and things to improve your experience with our products as well. So let's take one sort of case study here. Back in 2019, I think, pre-COVID was the last time we did an in-person workshop. We did one around troubleshooting and OpenShift in general. And we got a lot of feedback and a lot of really great ideas from that. And we sort of looked at our other research as well. And a lot of those things actually made it into the product itself too. So we'll sort of whip through a few examples of that. For example, we had a lot of folks who were unfamiliar with Kubernetes in general, or coming over from virtual machines and virtualization, and just sort of getting started with Kubernetes, just the basics of pods and containers and things. So we knew that, and we started to improve the OpenShift Web Console experience, which we know a lot of folks kind of use to understand what are the new features, what are the new capabilities, how to actually use OpenShift and Kubernetes in general. So we incorporated a getting started card to improve our onboarding experience. Added quick starts and inline documentation for operators and operands to sort of help you all to make use of the capabilities that are in the platform as well. And even an API Explorer, so that if you're in a totally disconnected environment or something, you don't have access to documentation, you can actually browse the documentation for each API and each resource in the console itself as well and see various examples and ways of constructing YAML too. We also heard quite a bit about it being difficult to actually troubleshoot and access the right logs for certain pods and their crash looping and things. So to that end, we made improvements to the console as well to kind of surface information whenever a pod is crash looping, allowing you to quickly access the debug logs for those pods as well and to dig into those containers, and also making improvements to our various kind of log viewer components here, and the ability to expand, show full screen, making it easy to download those logs as well, and also wrapping lines and things like that too. So lots of little bits and feedback that I know it seems like small little details, but each of those definitely matters in your overall experience to make your emotions as happy as possible in potentially stressful times. We also heard quite a bit about it being difficult to deploy your applications, and sometimes services don't start for whatever reason, and not being super clear why. In some cases, network policies, firewalls, and certificate issues are preventing your applications from actually working as the way they should. So we've invested quite a bit into our network observability stack, making sure that it's much easier to see when certain pods are supposed to be communicating but not, as well as the throughput between those different entities and services as well. So it's always kind of a thrill when we get to write these OpenShift blog posts, and I know product management does that too, and it's sort of collaboration there, about how customer feedback directly shapes each of our OpenShift releases. And heck, in I think 4.12 alone, there were 49 customer requests for enhancement and various feature ideas that came directly from you all into our teams and actually made into the product in each release as well, which was really quite cool and rewarding. So to summarize and wrap up here, when we say we think about your experience every day, we're thinking about this entire journey, from discovering, learning, evaluating, adopting, and expanding your usage of these products and technologies, and your emotional roller coaster along the way. And sometimes your journey, your experience gets kind of complex. We map out your interactions and the way you're interacting with these things all along the way, and it gets complicated sometimes, admittedly. And sometimes it gets very complex, which is difficult. And simplifying this complexity is quite hard, to be honest, but it's worth in the end. When we get feedback from you all about, some folks using the assist installer pretty much for everything because it's the dream to them, or we got to laugh about this internally when the web console added dark mode in, was it 4.12 or something, relatively recently. Some folks joke that it's pretty much all the justification you need to upgrade your cluster to actually get that dark mode inside of the web console. So any reason where folks are saying they can't wait to upgrade to the next OpenShift release is seriously like really internally motivating for all of us to actually hear that direct feedback from you all and hearing that you're excited about this. I got a thumbs up. Awesome. Was that for dark mode? Probably, right? Yeah. Default for everything? We're trying. We're working on it. Next version of Panelfly might go in that direction, but we'll see. At least maybe something that you can customize and tweak and change based on your preference. So last one, design. This is the fancy one. So jazzed up there too. This is totally understandable. I know folks, a lot of folks think, oh, design, that means the graphical user interface. In the same way that when we think of icebergs, we think about the top that's sort of above the ocean, right? But there's a whole lot of stuff that goes behind and underneath that we also consider. Don't get me wrong, nice GUIs are definitely appreciated. You don't have to go back too far into Red Hat's own history to see that we made massive strides in the consistency and the usability of our various products in our portfolio too. And making sure that they're actually sort of usable across them too, so that if you learn one, you can sort of navigate and find your way around the others as well, which is quite important. But good design is also accessible and contextual. For example, maybe you're an SRE or something waking up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, and you're just bog tired. And you're trying to figure out how to fix this OpenShift alert or get your cluster up and running and stuff, and we're actually considering that in the design of our products too. Or maybe your hands are full. I don't know if any of you have used the OpenShift web console on mobile. It's actually pretty decent. And there's certain cases where you don't have access to your laptop or something, or you're on the go and you need to debug something. The OpenShift console, for example, takes that mobile accessibility into heart and makes sure that's actually a usable experience too. Or in some cases, maybe English is not necessarily your first language, and you'd like to use a different language. The OpenShift console supports that. Or maybe you just got your eyes dilated, or you're having vision issues or blurry vision a particular day, and you find yourself surprised to learn that the OpenShift web console is fully keyboard accessible. Or heck, I know this is something that we probably do often pretty much every day, but when you hit Command plus or Control plus on your screen to increase the size of your text or increase the size of the web console and the way things sort of lay out, that's an accessibility feature that's used by, I think, many of us too, but we don't really think about that as an accessibility feature. Accessibility is something that we all use eventually. It's not really a matter of if we need those features and capabilities, it's more so a matter of when. And so to that end, one of the major contributions we made to Red Hat and the community at large in the open source community is Panelfly, our design system, with major focus on accessibility sort of built in, acknowledging that ability is a spectrum and accessibility is for all of us. So the internationalization support in the web console that came out a few releases ago, that was a major component of that. Dark mode, as we mentioned, which is coming soon to other products too, and also making sure that our screen readers can actually use the console and the various interfaces that we create as well. That has been a major focus for us. Good design is also useful and saves time. So I mentioned the OpenShift Assist installer before. We knew it was quite difficult to install OpenShift on especially bare metal, and getting all the network configurations correct, making sure that each sort of node in the cluster could actually talk to each other so that the installation would actually succeed. And to hear feedback about it being like sort of a dream compared to what it was before, it's really quite awesome to sort of hear that and really sort of validating for us that we're actually building useful things that save you all time and get you all back to your families and the rest of your lives and the things that are not focused solely on Kubernetes. So good design is also helpful. If any of you go about installing an OpenShift cluster on AWS, for example, which we nicknamed Rosa, you might find if you start to hit errors or issues or things, we're actually giving proactive help. So actually surfacing a customer success team where you can actually connect directly with them inside the interface as well, inside a chat or through a phone call, just to work through your issues and get your OpenShift on Rosa cluster installed as well, which is quite cool. And good design is also informed by data. So in the transition from OpenShift 3.x to 4.x, we actually looked at and measured, like were we actually regressing in the usability of certain features or some of your top tasks that we knew about, and making sure that we were headed up and to the right for all those as well. And the right-hand side here is actually kind of interesting. I'm not sure that folks really knew this. It was certainly a surprise to me, at least. I think there's a conception that many of us sort of use the CLI to interact with their OpenShift clusters primarily. But through that survey with 300 OpenShift administrators, we're actually surprised to see that the most common combination is actually a mix of both. And in certain cases, different tasks for each one. Each one is sort of well suited for. So far and away, the most common thing was to use both at least 11 times plus kind of per week of OpenShift usage as well, which is really quite interesting. I'm going to end pretty much the time here, but I want to emphasize that design is a continuous process. So all things we just sort of talked about sort of fits into two kind of continuous loops of discovery and delivery. On the discovery side, we're focused very much on building the right things in general. So that's where research comes in, UX research, conversations with all of you all, and our workshops like the one that's happening now. And the delivery side, we're focused on making the things right. And that's where product analytics and feedback collection and all those sort of things fit in as well. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that good design is a team effort across product management and documentation and designers and our UI developers. It is a major kind of cross-collaboration and an effort that actually goes into making the OpenShift experience what it is today and consistently improving it. It's definitely a huge partnership between PM and XG in particular to make sure that your needs are being heard and felt in events like this, to be honest. Commons would not be here if we didn't care about you all and your experience in that way. So most importantly, just kind of tie this all back together, good design starts with you. So seriously, thank you all for being here today, for attending Summit, for attending Commons, for all the feedback you provided in the past and will in the future. You can learn more about Patternfly at our patternfly.org site. But yeah, let's chat. Thank you all for listening.